Welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. And now, let's get sketchy.
Now you can hear me.
Oh, and it was such a great intro.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
What I was saying is you love art. We love art. There's no better place to spend Valentine's Day with what you love here on Getting Sketchy. So thank you for sticking around for us getting through that mic error on my part. We're glad that you're here tonight, and I love seeing all the hearts pop up. So glad that you're joining us tonight here on Valentine's Day, which, is, I don't know how I feel about Valentine's Day, so I'm just going to keep it to myself, but I'm glad that you're here. And what we do here on Getting Sketchy, of course, is either myself or Ashley, we try to create a drawing for you inside of 45 minutes. And we also try to put in a little bit of entertainment and instruction in there as well. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight. Tonight, we'll be doing the fourth drawing of the season. Is that right?
No, this is my third, so it's the fifth drawing.
It's the fifth drawing of the season. So fifth drawing of the season here. So after tonight, we'll be halfway through season 11. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there is a chat box here if you're watching it on YouTube. If you're watching it live, of course, you can post comments and questions. If you do have a comment or question that's directed at myself or Ashley specifically, if you'll use the super chat function, and you can find that down in the chat box. It does cost a little bit of money, but it does show support for the channel, and we would really appreciate it if you use that super chat function. You'll also get your comment or question highlighted amongst all the other ones, and we know that we can address it directly to you. So we would appreciate it if you do that. We are working from a photo reference tonight. Ashley's going to be doing the drawing. And if you want that photo reference, you just go to the community tab on the YouTube channel. So you're watching this video right now, but you might not be on the actual channel. To get on the channel, just click on the little icon of my face down in the lower left-hand corner. That'll take you to the YouTube channel. Look for the community tab there, and you will see that photo reference. And of course, you can use it to draw alongside of us if you wish. We will have the photo reference up for you while we go through the broadcast. And I mentioned Ashley's going to be doing the drawing. He's sitting right over there. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thank you for asking. And I guess I could have picked a subject that was more thematic to Valentine's Day, but I chose tape. So if you maybe wrapped a package for your loved one and taped it together, then it's thematic. I'm excited about the drawing tonight. The tape dispenser is probably familiar to all of us. It's kind of like one of those ready-mades, Matt. It's kind of a beautiful form that we overlook, or maybe it should be overlooked, but we're drawing it tonight. So let's see how it goes.
Another use for the tape is if your date tries to get away from you, you can always tape them up.
That's right. You got to stick together.
Lots of got to stick together here on Valentine's Day.
Stick together.
That's the theme. We're going to stick together on Valentine's Day. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't done so yet, we'd encourage you to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded and when we go live like this, which we do on occasion, of course. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And of course, got to tell you about the membership program, guys. If you have not checked out the membership program, you are missing out. I can't be any more blunt than that. There are a ton of drawing and painting courses on a variety of subject matter media. We do weekly live lessons, no matter what season it is, for the members. These are an hour long each week. After we're done here with Get Sketchy, I'll be continuing the series that I'm leading right now on Scratchboard. And the live lessons are complete pieces of artwork. So they're spread out over several weeks. And of course, it's broadcast live. And all of those broadcasts are recorded and stored in our vault. They go all the way back to 2012 when I first started streaming. So there's a ton of content there. There are weekly critiques as part of the Members Minute. There are now over 460 of those available to you. And there's a year-long curriculum for visual arts teachers, which includes absolutely everything you need to teach. If you want to learn more about the membership program, there's a link in the description below. Everyone starts out with a week-long trial for free, so you can check it out and see if it's right for you. And beyond that, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So we want to make sure everybody is completely happy, and that's what we've got in place to make sure that that's the case. If you want to just check out 3 courses and 3 of our course videos and ebooks for free, there's a link in the description below for that as well. And that will put you on our mailing list, so you can get updates about new lessons and new courses, and a series of emails of free lessons that you're going to love. So all that's available for you. And I think, are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at our materials for tonight.
We'll switch over to the main camera.
All right. So we'll be starting my drawing in pencil, and I just have a standard lead holder. I think it's got HB or maybe 2B lead in it, so it's average or slightly dark. And we are going...
Actually, is it 2B or not 2B?
Be mine.
That is...
Be mine. Remember those little candy hearts?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally
From
remember
elementary
those.
school?
Yeah.
Be mine. So 2B mine.
Yeah.
I will be using Copic markers, the Grayscale markers. They're Copic Sketch, which is perfect for us since we'll be sketching. And probably, here we go. We can see all the caps now. I probably will just go ahead and remove that one. So I'm going to be mostly using these 4. The nice thing about these markers, they're alcohol-based. They go down a little bit darker than how they dry, but they dry quickly. And you can kind of layer and stack the colors, or values in this case, just like you would with watercolor, to build up your values as well. Of course, we're drawing in 45 minutes, so we'll do a little bit of layering and building, but we'll also just be trying to choose the right gray for the right shape. This drawing is a lot about shape, and there's a lot of shapes in the reflections inside of that tape dispenser. So that's kind of value and shape. Those are the 2 elements of art that we'll be focused on. There are a few white spots. You know, there's kind of a light edge around the tape dispenser, but there's just a very few white spots in there. So near the end of our 45 minutes, we'll use a white medium over some of the marker. It may be a General's charcoal pencil, or it may be a Posca marker. So I'm going to try the pencil first, and if it's not showing up, then we'll break out the marker. So I've got a backup, 2 white media that we might experiment with. And of course, you could use another white media. You could use just tiny little touches of white acrylic or gouache paint as well. All right. And then, of course, I've got an eraser. I'm probably going to have to use that a little bit. This is one of my favorites. I like the black erasers. So I think that's it. I think that's all of the materials that I'll be fumbling around with tonight.
I guess that black eraser is just a rubber eraser.
Yeah, it is. It's a rubber eraser. I think they're supposed to have a little bit less shavings. I used to use the black pearl made by Pink Pearl, yeah, but it's kind of an oval shape, and I really like that. But this one feels very similar. It's actually really soft. Okay. I believe that's it, Matt. I think we can go ahead and...
You're ready for the timer already?
Up the timer. Is there anything else I've left out? I think that's it. So we're going to start with some light lines, and then we'll start with some lines. Then we'll lighten them.
What size is that?
I'm sorry. We didn't talk about the paper at all. Yeah. So the paper is relatively smooth. It's a little bit smoother than drawing paper. It's a mixed media paper that I've drawn on before. It's very white, and I believe my picture plane it's kind of small for marker, but the markers have a chisel tip and a brush tip that goes to a point, so we'll probably be utilizing the point some. The picture plane is 4 inches tall by 4.8 inches wide, so almost a 4 by 5, just slightly short of 5 inches wide.
All right.
Is that... I think that's everything. And with regard to our materials and our support, let's start drawing. Let's get sketchy.
Right. We'll start the timer as soon as I see your hand.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're ready.
I was looking at the screen. Okay. Don't make me nervous.
All right. Timer is on.
Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to work on an overall shape first. This is a photograph that I took. So... it's got a little bit of a distorted perspective.
Yeah, definitely got some foreshortening going on there. And this is one of those objects that looks simple, and we think it's simple because we see it all the time. But when we look a little closer, we see how complex it is. And I don't want to say difficult to draw.
It's got these crazy curves.
It presents a challenge. And so this is an example of an everyday object that is so conspicuous in our life that is a great practice subject.
It can be easily overlooked.
Yes, practice is so important to developing any skill. And you got to remember that drawing and painting are skills, and those are skills that anyone can learn. And I think sometimes with drawing and painting, people run into challenges and they get frustrated, and then they go back in their mind somewhere to that old adage, thinking that they must be talented in order to be an artist, or they have to possess some artistic, I want to say
like a
thumb,
gene,
but that's
like
not right. There's only a green thumb. So I don't know what kind of thumb an artist would have, but it's really,
all colors probably.
Right. It's a rainbow thumb.
Yeah.
But artists are skilled craftsmen who have put time and effort into practice and developing their skill. And when you do run into frustrations, that is part of the growing process. So keep that in mind. No matter what subject you're tackling, embrace the times where you feel a little frustrated and know that that is a moment of growth, and keep practicing.
All right, so I'm looking at the distance between the edges of my picture plane right now, and also the tape dispenser itself. And I've got some little marks at about where halfway is, so I can kind of hold my pencil up in front of my reference in the middle and just kind of see if we're close, passing through these quarter or half marks, quarter, half, 3/4, if we're passing through those areas.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you used yellow pigment in some form or fashion.
How do you know that? Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I tried to get it off. I tried to get it all off. Yeah, I've got acrylic paint on my hands today.
That's okay. I have red marks on my fingers too from marker.
It's well, that's worse. People mistake that for an accident. For blood. Right. All right. So I'm not sure how long we'll spend on the line drawing, but I've allotted myself maybe like 15 minutes or so. Like 15 minutes, and then move on to the markers, whether we're ready or not. So let's see.
And you don't have to be working on the same type of paper that Ashley's working on. You can work on any surface that you wish. But remember, the surface that you work on is just as important as the materials that you use. Sometimes the surface is overlooked and kind of given just not even a second thought. But the surface that you work on will affect the texture in the drawing, how the media behaves on the surface. And if you're using markers like Ashley is, alcohol-based markers, then you probably do want to work on a surface that's smoother instead of a surface that's more coarse or more textured or has a heavier tooth.
Okay, just feeling my way around this guy still. Made a few little adjustments, mostly to what the curves.
Knights of Lavender, very nice name there. Says the best lesson I've used from your course is to try and work on a 1-inch square for an hour. It's made me much more patient. Yeah, and you're referring to the courses from Realistic Pencil Drawing, or the course that lesson is from the course Realistic Pencil Drawing. And in it, I challenge the students to draw on, I think it's a 3-inch by 3-inch square, and I challenge them to spend 2 hours on that 3-inch square. I think, if I remember correctly. And you don't really know what you're drawing while you're working on that square. And but at the end, you see that it's part of a larger image. And if you approached your drawings that way and slowed down and really concentrated on what you're seeing instead of trying to understand the subject fully, and you work slowly and patiently, then you can be very successful at creating a realistic illusion.
All right, so feel pretty good about the shape of the dispenser. Let's get some tape in there. I feel like this may need to come out just a little further.
Now, Ashley does like the pink pearl erasers.
Yes.
I don't.
They're a little more abrasive than the black Factus.
Now, next week on YouTube, on Monday, I think I'll have a video coming out on the 4 main types of erasers and their positives and negatives. So look for that. That'll come out, I think, next Monday. And we do talk a little bit about rubber erasers, which a pink pearl eraser is a rubber eraser. And Ashley is actually using a rubber eraser tonight. So it's like the pink pearl eraser, except it's black.
And maybe just a little bit less abrasive.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
A little softer, maybe.
Yeah.
Those rubber erasers, they do tend to get hard over time.
That's true.
And their erasing capabilities do degrade.
You know, I had to replace the rubber bumpers on my pool table because the same thing happened.
Because they degraded?
They got hard over time, and just 3 of them did, so...
Maybe you've just been using them too much. No,
I looked it up, and it was a bad batch of rubber back in this is an older table, back in the early 2000s. Bad batch of rubber from China, and all the tables made in that period of time had a problem.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Jan says the recent charcoal video is excellent. Thank you, Jan. That is kind of that video is a condensed version of one of the modules from the charcoal drawing course. But you're talking about defective things. That I immediately thought of all of the blue lights that we have around here.
Oh yeah, the blue purple lights.
Right, and there's for those of you, for the 99% of you who don't know what we're talking about.
Man, I'll bet these lights are all over America.
I bet they're not.
We've been told in our city that if your street light turns purple, to call the city and they'll go replace it.
They're not going to replace it.
They do.
All of these lights, they started replacing halogen lights with these. Are they LEDs? I'm not sure.
Probably.
Anyway, they started changing all these lights around here. Street lights, that kind of stuff, security lights. And they all started turning blue, and they're all defective.
Yeah, mine's more purple. I mean, it looks like a horror scene.
It's like
out
a
on my
purplish,
street.
it's like a blue purple.
Yeah, it's like Halloween all the time.
Right. And so, it's almost hard to find a working street light that is like a white light or a yellow light. They're all turning bluish purple, which is kind of weird. They still work. They're just...
Yeah, they're still lights. They're just
a
party
different
lights.
color.
It's like a party light out there.
Now that is a real mess up right there.
What's that?
All those blue purple lights.
Yeah. What about them?
Well, they're defective.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a major...
For sure.
That's a major
by the
mess up.
thousands. By the thousands. Who knows how much all that cost? All right. So we got most of our hard edges in. There's some other details, linear details around this tape that we'll probably just try to find with the marker. All right, how we doing? 35 minutes in? Or 35 minutes to go.
You're 10 minutes in, so you still have 5 minutes left to work on your drawing if you stay with your...
According to my own arbitrary schedule. Right. I think it might be helpful to find a few of these little shapes. If you look in the reflections, there's a few different grays
definitely.
in there.
Yeah,
so
I would look for areas of
contrast. We'll drop those little contours in partially so we don't accidentally go over them with too dark of a color value.
Going back to the erasers, Dale says that he likes my go-to erasers. Erasers are either vinyl, kneaded, or art gum erasers. And
you like the vinyl erasers.
I like vinyl and kneaded. The vinyl erasers and kneaded erasers are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I have all of the types of erasers, but the kneaded eraser and the vinyl erasers are also called plastic erasers.
Yep. I like the kneaded eraser as well. It's great.
Kneaded eraser is needed if you're an artist.
You're going to need it.
Definitely the most versatile eraser, but also the weakest.
Which I could use right now, actually, because I'm
I
trying
only
to
use the art gum erasers.
polish my drawing a little bit to a lighter value.
I only use the art gum erasers for cleaning up mats or cleaning up paper before I start drawing on it. Those are the erasers that crumble. They literally fall apart while you're using them, but they're very gentle on the paper. Port Engine says the old street lamps were based on sodium or mercury vapor. I can see why they're replacing them.
Those are probably
You
like
think those street lights have sodium vapor?
those are probably like the
mercury?
lights in our old school that we used to remember how those
Those are
were like
really
these
old.
weird like gas filled lights or something like that. They were super expensive too, because probably not many people make them anymore. All right, it's gonna have to be marker time. Let's do it.
We are ahead of the game.
All right, bought myself an extra couple of minutes. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the dispenser first, and then we'll sort of work around it. And this is the ultimate value that I need in the background, but we'll probably start a little bit lighter than that and work up to it.
Now, did you talk about you did talk about the different values you have?
Yeah, I've got 5, and oh gosh, I taped my board down. Let me zoom out. Let me show you guys what I do. So I went ahead and made marks with them across the top of my paper. So I've got a little value to reference, or value scale to reference, just so I can check it up against my image before I actually pick up a marker. So those are my 5 little values in the margins of my paper.
That mean for you to take time away from your.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Now
we're too close.
Now I'm not going to finish.
We're going to get exposed to transparent tape.
All right, here we go. Well, we'll start with the lightest. And I'm going to pretty much go over the entire tape. Shit.
Because you're going to add the lightest highlights
Right.
with a white media.
That's the plan. Because a lot of those light edges are not white. They're just very light. And so that's where our lightest marker comes in. And it is super light.
Colleen says, needed erasers don't cost a lot of dough either. But dumb.
Ha ha ha.
She didn't. I said the badum dump. But the joke there, if you don't know what a kneaded eraser is that they are pliable and you can move them around like dough. So, Diane says, I bought a Caran d'Ache Technic eraser. Hadn't opened it or used it. Have you used that? And what is it really good for? I'm not really sure what type of eraser that is. Just by the name, I'm going to guess it's a vinyl or plastic eraser, but I will look it up while we're live here. And I've never used that eraser, but I can find out what type it is. It's more than likely one of the 4 main types.
When you said that type of eraser, we were reading the comment, what is it good for? I had a strong inclination to say, nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Say it again.
But I'm sure it's worth something.
I'm sure it's worth something.
Let's see here. Technic. One thing that they can't do here is spell Technic correctly. Not you, Diane. The company. Technic eraser.
It's got a fancy spelling. Creative spelling. Or maybe you can see the marker getting a little bit lighter from left to right now as it starts to dry.
I have looked up the Technic eraser here, and it does not, in the description, does not say what kind it is, but looking at it, I think it's a pretty safe guess that it is a vinyl or plastic eraser. So, yeah. Mary Elizabeth, yes, there will be a live lesson at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. For the members at the Virtual Instructor, we'll be continuing our scratch board image of a bee.
Exciting.
I said that very
The bay.
Of a bay. Like
It's a big bee.
an interesting accent there. Yeah. It is a big bee. That
Yeah,
scratch board
it's a
is
big
large.
scratch board.
Yeah.
That's true.
But we're going pretty quickly with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a comment by Sonny Dupree. I was taught not to erase. I had a teacher that wouldn't let us use an eraser. It's amazing how much better your drawing comes out without it. Most of the time, that line that you erased, you needed it later. Sonny Dupree, I hate to tell you, but your teacher is wrong. You need an eraser is not just for fixing mistakes. An eraser is a mark-making tool. We don't always use an eraser to just lift up lines that we didn't want to be there. We use an eraser to pull out highlights, to change textures, to actually make marks. An eraser is an important tool that every artist should have, and no one should ever tell you, never use this or never do that, especially when it comes to art making. That's my opinion, but it's the right opinion. And if you want to know how powerful an eraser is, watch last week's Getting Sketchy episode. I started that drawing out by covering the entire paper with charcoal and then erasing out the subject. So
it was definitely used to make marks that remained.
Yes. And again, I still would be wary of any teacher that tells you never use this or never, or I'm trying to think of another example, but never say never is what I'm trying to say. There's multiple ways that people can be successful. And sometimes teachers, especially, they discover a way that works for them and thinks it should work for everyone that way. And that's not the case. So you've got to be open-minded.
I make drawings sometimes, and when I get to the end, I realize I didn't erase, but it's not necessarily intentionally. I don't have a problem using my eraser. I don't take it as a...
Okay, Diane has now opened her eraser.
All right.
And said it sort of looks like a vinyl eraser. I just opened it, and it's sort of translucent and pliable. Thanks for checking, Matt. Absolutely. I am going only by the picture that I looked at, but it looks like a vinyl eraser. And I would venture to guess that it is. Really, all erasers kind of fall into one of four categories. Oh, Mary Elizabeth says, never use black in watercolor.
Oh. Is she quoting you?
I do shy away from black when working with color media, but I also use black when working with color media. When I say to stay away from black, I mean stay away from flat black, only using black in areas in a color image. If you're doing a black and white drawing, of course you're going to use black. But if you're working in a color image, it's usually better to mix your black. But there are some situations where you need a really super dark value that still has a hue, and you have to use black to mix with the color. But never use black in watercolor. I don't even think I'd go that far. I think that there's probably a time and the place to use black with a color to make it darker in watercolor, although I don't typically do that myself. Have you ever used black with watercolor?
Yeah, I'll do that. I use black. But, it's not really black. It's gray. It's never black in watercolor. It's different than using it with acrylic or oil paint.
That's true.
So I'm more likely to use it, actually, with my watercolors.
That's very true.
Okay. So back to the very lightest marker for a little bit.
Anthony Joseph says last week's Getting Sketchy lesson is the best advertisement for artists using erasers. Yeah, I think so
it's
too.
All eraser. Not all of it, but very much eraser.
A lot of erasing. I knew I was going to do so much erasing that I made sure that my electric eraser had extra batteries in case they ran.
All right, now I'm going to use my second lightest again. These are the only two I've used so far. And I'm going to do a little stacking, try to find these shapes or rediscover these slightly darker shapes in the clear dispenser around our tape. Now I am just shifting and moving all around. You might see my hand come in from the top. This is the kind of image that I would normally want to turn and sort of spin and work on, sometimes sideways. And we don't do that here. We try to keep our art oriented to the camera. And so we just spin ourselves around. All right.
Oh, no. The timer started over when I switched.
Yes.
I don't know how that happened, but you have.
Now we're going to have to use the clock. Like, what time is it?
No, not
This
necessarily.
has never happened before.
This has never happened before.
We're in uncharted territory.
We're always in uncharted territory, it seems like here. I'm trying to figure out how to reconfigure the clock.
And just
But when
and reset it
switched
to
cameras,
a time of your
I
own
had a
choosing.
moment of panic knowing, oh my gosh, the timer's not on there. Oh well. We'll say we'll say you have till you have about it's about 30 minutes, something like that.
Something like that.
So
All right. All right, it's happening. Starting to get a little sense of transparency in here. We may need to start getting darker now around our subject so we can start to compare more of our values, what we've done so far. I think we will. Now, I'm going to start with our number.
okay, since the timer is irrelevant at
3.
this point, I'm going to hide the timer. And I'm going to give you time updates.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
What are you doing now?
I'm going to give you updates on how much time you have left.
Okay.
Okay. So I have that. This is all my fault. I completely messed up the timer. I take full responsibility for that. But I think you're going to have no problem getting this one done inside of the timer anyway. But I'm going to set my timer here. If I can figure out how to do that. And I'm going to set it to 30 minutes. So that's about how much time you have left anyway.
Okay.
All right, you have 30
I
minutes.
trust you. You guys watch him. If in 5 minutes
They
he
can't
says I have
see me.
20 minutes,
They can't see me.
watch your clocks, guys.
But now I can, and you keep popping up and looking at the camera and saying that. Yeah, I'll keep you updated here. You now have 29 minutes and 36 seconds.
Gosh. I don't want updates that often.
Now, are you going to fill in the whole background with that dark?
Yes.
And what's strange about you know what it is? It's the shadow.
Yeah, it's a strange shadow. It's
It is
partly a
strange- It almost
reflection.
looks like it's on a reflective surface.
Yeah, it's the black paper that I used must have had a little bit of a sheen to it.
And Jay says there is transparency and translucency, which seems pretty tricky. And that's true, but there's a trick. There's a trick to transparency and translucency.
Well,
And
Matt, tell me what
shiny-
it is. I'm struggling. I'm just kidding.
Shiny
What is it?
subjects. And that is having darker values lined right up next to lighter values. That's always happens with shiny objects and transparent objects.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at windows, shiny metal, anything like that, you're going to see a dark value with little gradation or no gradation to a dark value. And you can see that in the tape container.
I've missed a couple of dark values, so we'll go back and revisit those.
Right, but you're going to put in those strong highlights.
Oh yeah,
and those strong highlights are, they're really strong and light, right next to a dark value. And you can see it on the back edge of the tape dispenser too, where you can see
where it's
that
starting to happen a
light
little bit.
bar right next to the dark bar, and then it gets light again.
Oh goodness! All right, I've made it around. That was tedious. Now, I'll tell you guys one thing about these Copic markers that I love them. But the thing I don't love is that they have two sides. Matt and I were talking about this before. And the cap is exactly the same on both sides. There's a little tiny indicator, a picture of what type of tip you're about to open. It's too small for me to see.
Now, is that the skinnier side?
This is the brush tip,
Okay.
which goes to a point. And then the chisel tip
Yeah, that's
also
all
goes
backwards.
to a point. Yeah.
Prismacolor has a thicker line of color on the side. That's the chisel tip.
Yeah,
and a
I like
thinner line
that.
of color. But the lids are so ridiculously hard to get off.
That's true. I'm going to start putting in some background value.
And just to clarify, these Copic markers are alcohol-based markers, which there's lots of brands of alcohol-based markers out there. You don't have to use the Copic ones, which are some of the most expensive ones. But
That's true.
the alcohol-based markers behave differently compared to regular markers. Regular markers are not going to be translucent like this and aren't going to allow you to put lots of layers on like Ashley's using them. So keep that in mind. So if you're working with regular markers, just keep in mind that these are alcohol-based markers. And you probably ought to use alcohol-based markers if you want to recreate the look that Ashley's creating here. Okay, Catherine says, Ashley, look for the gray ring, which denotes the fine tip. So...
Blast it, you're right. There it is.
Well, I saw that ring, and I thought, well, that is a thicker line. Maybe that's the thicker side.
You're right. I stand corrected. Then now I love them even more.
I think when I need to get new markers in probably 30 years, I'll probably get the Copic markers.
Yeah.
But I have had my set of Prismacolor markers.
And they've lasted really well.
I think I bought them in 2018. And I have not had to replace a marker. Now, granted, my 20% warm gray no longer functions. But that's the only one.
Yeah. Valuable color. Or value. Valuable value. Now, I plan to go over the background with vertical strokes as well. Just keep that in mind if Matt gives me enough time.
You have 10 minutes left.
Ah!
I'm kidding. You have 24 minutes left. I'm not really sure how the timer got
Yeah, that
so
hasn't
messed up.
happened to
I
us
know what I
before.
did. I did not turn the timer on for the different camera angles. And
And when you
that's
switched the
what
angle, it
happened.
disappeared.
Yeah, I had it hidden, and when I switched, it restarted the timer. It's-
Okay.
Lord Engine says I might get a set of Copic markers if I feel like filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah, I know. I just bought 5. The gray ones, and they were still, oh gosh, about $36. But they came with a drawing pen. So it was really 6 tools.
So it was totally worth it.
6 tools for $36. So they were $6 a piece if you
All
count
right.
the pen.
Rebattle, I'm probably not saying that correctly, says I've had some Prismacolor markers since the 80s that still work. Some's dried out, but not many.
There you go.
That tells you something.
Ringing endorsement there.
Tells you something.
Mm-hmm.
Dale says I have some markers and marker paper, but not a medium I have explored that much. Dale, you have a whole world waiting for you. And I like to use the markers with colored pencils. In fact, that's the drawing I've been working on today. It's a combination cool. Markers and colored pencils. And they work great together on marker paper. The only limitation is that you can't put as many layers of colored pencil applications on the marker paper because marker paper is smooth.
But you got marker under there.
But you got
so marker. You don't need as many layers to arrive at the color that you're after.
Yeah, you do have to bring your marker drawing to kind of a higher level before you refine things with the colored pencils, but they work great together. Get a lot of information down quickly.
And our paper is covered. So everything's been touched once at least now. A couple things more than once.
And it's amazing how dark the tape dispenser looked. And then you made everything gray in the background. And then it looks like.
Right. And so now we can go back and see what we actually need to darken. Have a little bit more.
Because
a little bit more information to work with.
Yeah, Orion Nebula says, I was curious when the marker colored pencil lesson was coming up. Yep, that lesson series will be the third module in the course, Colored Pencils Plus, which is all about combining colored pencils with other drawing media. And I'm excited to get this one out. This drawing's going to be pretty good, I think. Lots of challenges.
All right. No, we can definitely start getting darker. Oh, still missing a.
You're very welcome, sort of Sonny Dupree.
Average or medium value there.
There's no other place we'd rather be on Valentine's night than right here, making art and trying to make jokes for you guys.
Because our wives don't like our jokes.
Yes.
All right, so there we are. And I'm going to go ahead and start
got the teeth
cutters. Yeah, little cutters. They'll get some darker marks underneath them. Oops, sorry about that. Just got to check them, make sure I'm not picking up the wrong ones. All right, let's go ahead and find our more of a full range. That'll also help us to hone in on some of these values. So the darkest area in the artwork is right here, right underneath our actual extended tape. There we go.
Kevin says the angle of that highlight in drawing, the line inside, I'm just reading this word for word, the line inside of the black spot in the photo is not as steep as it is in the photo.
Oh, we better start over.
Yeah, start over. I'm not sure where exactly you're talking about, but I do need to just put this out there again that this is a drawing that we are creating live inside of 45 minutes. And even if it wasn't a drawing that we were creating inside of 45 minutes live on YouTube, there are going to be differences between the photo and the drawing that you create. And honestly, there should be.
Remember, when we look at famous artworks, we never get to see their models or their references.
Right.
It's Mona Lisa probably Probably had red hair. No. Who knows? But as long as we get something we're happy with here.
Right.
That's what we're after.
Right. Exactly.
And the jury's still out, but that's at least what my target is.
Yeah. It's all about the finished product. And I personally like to see drawings and paintings that I can see where the artist made marks, where I can see the movement of their hand, where I can see some variation in the marks, and that a human was involved in its creation. So it's real easy to get kind of wrapped up in hyper realism, trying to make everything look just like a photo.
Yeah, and that is a fun challenge too.
Yes, but we do have photographs. We there's already a place for that in the world.
And people like to see mark making now. Then they know that it ran through the filter of a human brain. Especially
with AI and everything that's happening with AI. We don't want things to be too refined, too perfect. But like Ashley said, it is worthwhile to work on trying to create some photorealism, but also knowing when to back off and let yourself create a piece of art, even if it's a sketch. Let's see.
Really starting to build our range now. There we go.
Okay, going back, Sonny Dupree way back said about having a teacher that said never use the eraser. And they are clarifying now, okay, he didn't say never use the eraser. We were always taught how to use one. The point is our drawings became better because we weren't always erasing. I've seen people erase a hole in the paper. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Sure.
Yeah. When you're creating a drawing, especially when you're in the early stages, sketching things out, it's usually a good idea to make lots of marks and not erase the marks that you know aren't the correct mark as you go. In other words, don't put a mark and say, oh, no, that's not right, and then erase. Put a mark down. If it's not right, put the right mark next to it and keep going. Just start light, and then you can get more precise as you go along. And if you start light with your drawing and slowly get more precise and darker with your marks, you'll kind of find that those looser marks that you made in the beginning, they kind of almost disappear into the drawing, and you don't really have to erase them a lot of times.
All right. Right.
Okay,
Indicate the background through the tape a little bit more.
He says, thinking of getting some Tombow gray dual brush pens, similar effect maybe. If they're alcohol based, then definitely. I'm not sure if the Tombow dual gray brush pens are alcohol based, but they probably are. But I would check, make sure. Just
go back to our lightest option.
All right, timer update. You have 15 minutes left.
Okay.
You have 15. I think you got extra time. It feels like it.
Feels like I've been doing this for
But you should
hours.
get extra time because I messed up the timer.
I'm not going to argue. Not with that. You definitely messed up the timer. No.
So let's see. That's right. This is your third drawing, and you've done the vegetables,
and then
the binoculars, and then this draw. Okay, so this will be my third drawing coming up. I thought we were earlier on in the season.
So we're approaching the middle of our season. Yeah.
Okay, Catherine says Tombow makes both water-based and alcohol-based markers. So I would make sure that those markers, Keith, that you were looking at are alcohol-based markers. Barb says, what about the Prisma markers? Aren't they alcohol-based too? They are. Those are the markers that I have. And I bought them a while ago, and I still have them, and I still use them, and I still love them. The only thing about the Prismacolor markers is they don't have the brush tip, but they do have a fine tip and a chisel tip, and really you can get a lot of marks that you need with both of those tips.
Now, some of these little white edges I left in aren't even close to white. So I'm going to start going over some of them, knocking them down. There we go. I think we'll jump back into our background a little bit. Of course, it'll continue to get, you put the marker down, you think you just nailed it, and then they lighten a little bit.
They marinate on the surface.
Yeah, that's right. They marinate.
Now you're working on mixed media paper, as
That's
you mentioned
right.
before. If you
It's
work on
non-marker
marker paper,
Yeah.
those lines that you see there,
The banded
they
effect.
kind of blend into each other.
Yeah.
They don't really bleed; they just kind of blend in. So marker paper kind of helps alleviate that. You don't have to use marker paper, obviously.
I've chosen to go two directions. We can still see the bands in there,
Mhm.
but they kind of even each other out a little bit, cancel each other out just a touch. All right. And of course, we do have some darker values back there. So we'll start looking for those too. You just need to take a minute and just look at it.
This is quite a lovely drawing for Valentine's Day.
Isn't it nice?
We hope all of you will stick around to the end. And if not, we'll just tape you in your seat.
I'm going to have to tape Matt's mouth closed.
I like... there's probably lots of people that won't stay close.
Yeah.
Lord Engine says, I found a Marks-a-Lot from the 1970s one day that still worked.
Is that a Sir Marks-a-Lot?
It's the only marker drawing I've ever done. Came out pretty well, but my room stank like chemicals.
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember those.
As I was
Yeah,
reading
I
that, I
remember
was
those.
thinking that. Did you smell it?
Yeah, I remember those markers now.
Oh, God. You remember going into that art store that used to be in the mall years ago?
Hungates?
Was it Hungates?
Was that the name of it? It had model airplanes and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like the only place to get art supplies.
Yeah.
And every time you go in there, it felt like an overwhelming smell of the markers.
Yeah. That's what that. I thought maybe it was like model glue.
The employees are just back there sniffing it.
Hey, yeah, you never know. All right.
Catherine says, Matt, thanks for being able to read my typo and she typed TYPE $9. So she made a typo when she wrote the word typo. That's funny.
That's great.
That's pretty good. So now that Ashley's drawing has developed quite a bit further, we can see how we're seeing some of that transparency, and we can see how we have shapes of value
Shapes of value. Boy, that is the key.
that are dark next to values that are much lighter without any gradation. Now, if this object was not transparent, we would see smooth transitions between different values. So we would see the values kind of gradate to a lighter or darker value.
Yeah. So in some ways, it's a little bit easier because you don't have to create those gradations so much.
Right. And sometimes you can even add extra areas of contrast too.
All right, how are we doing on time? Make something up.
30 seconds.
No, don't make something up.
You have 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
All right.
Plenty of time. Plenty of time. I think you're ahead of your own schedule, aren't you?
Take my time. Take my time.
Yeah, take your 8 minutes and 26 seconds now.
A little more pigment down there. Do like the brush tip. Makes for softer marks. Now, Matt, I'm just getting to know marker art. I didn't really do a lot of marker work. Didn't do any in college. We didn't use them at all. So it's a new world.
A whole new world of drawing with markers.
Now, there is a little bit of gradation in the shadows.
Yeah, I like that variation that you're getting back there.
Yeah. So that's good. Of course, gotta let that dry now and see what happens. Something strange happened here. Put a mark in there. And it didn't actually get darker. It just sort of, I think it was too soon. And some of the layers underneath, I believe, were still wet.
Now, is that the darkest marker you have?
Oh, no.
No.
No, we're staying away from that thing.
So you're not going to use that one at all?
Not the darkest one. It's close to black.
So even in that darkest area in the middle, that's your third marker out of 4?
I think oh gosh. The darkest one is on the table.
Yeah, I thought so. I think you used the darkest one.
Oh, we're going to have to keep using it now. That's it. We went there. Oh gosh. You know, the one usually I keep them in a cup so the tips are upward, and I'm less likely to pick up the wrong one. So
no cup here.
Let's just get a little bit of that.
Just a broad table.
Yeah, I'm just going to get a little bit of that.
Get mixed up here. On.
Of course, this area is still wet. I don't want to go through.
Well, that's good. It'll blend together.
Page. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll let that area dry now. Let's see what happens. All right, let's see.
Jan says, just give in to the dark side, Ashley.
Yeah, you're right. Come to the dark side. You can feel my anger.
I can feel your anger.
I can feel your anger.
Search your feelings. Yeah, Mary Elizabeth says, I like the darker pigment, and I agree. I like the darker pigment.
We needed to get there.
I think you need the darker values in there.
Needed to get there.
Get that full range. Darkest darks, lightest lights, all the grays in between.
And of course, there's no white in here right now.
Right.
So even though it's very light, and it may be still too light for my white pigment to make a difference.
You get that white on there, it's going to...
I think it'll make a difference.
It's going to pop.
Yeah, I hope so. All right. Got about, what you think, about 5 minutes or so?
Yep, 4 minutes, 47 seconds. But who's counting? Oh, wait, I am. Oh, yeah. More transparency there. I like it.
Yeah. There we go. Probably, I'm doing the tape like it's a little more transparent or less frosted than it is. I'm fine with that.
It's starting to pop out and look more three-dimensional.
All right. Now, a few little... marks under our teeth. And probably this shape again. You know, this is a kind of a small drawing for the medium, but I was hesitant to go too big. So I might have gone too small.
It needs that. Yeah, that dark makes a difference.
Yeah, needs that. And where's our medium again?
Lord Engine's got the best pun tonight.
Okay.
Taped before a live studio audience.
Ha 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 ha. Perfect.
You could even leave the ED off of it, or just the D off. Tape before a live studio audience. Isn't that funny? Taped before a live studio audience.
Sounds like a great.
They don't do that kind of stuff anymore, do they? We don't have.
Disney has had a couple of live.
Yeah, but those are just live.
presentations.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. They don't actually have an on Saturday Night Live. That's it.
Yeah, but that's live too.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's actually live, not just taped
Right.
before a live audience.
But you remember all the sitcoms used to be that way, and people would laugh at the
right.
jokes.
You could hear the laughter, and then I guess maybe it was unpredictable, and so they went to the laugh tracks.
Well, I think reality
when nobody laughed.
Reality TV came in, and kind of destroyed the sitcom.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Mary Elizabeth is asking, "Are you going to outline this in black?"
No, I don't think so. I mean, I could. There's definitely maybe along the bottom edge. I mean, I might put just a darker mark down.
Yeah,
there.
I would probably use the darkest value, not like a black.
I'm going to use this is number 4.
If you introduced ink as far as like an ink pen,
I
at
like
this
that
point,
mark.
you'd have to go all.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
it would be so dark.
This has such a soft look. I like it. It's talking about the laugh tracks. Since we don't hear anyone laugh at our jokes,
if
we should have.
If Matt tells a joke and no one's there to laugh at it, is it funny?
Of course it is.
We do. We need a laugh track.
We need a laugh track. We need a live studio audience.
We can record the laugh track ourselves. It'll just be us in the background.
We already have one of those.
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't. That's the cheer.
Yeah, that's the cheer. All righty. How much time? Like 2 minutes, or is it elapsed?
You have 58 seconds.
Okay.
But you still have to add your whites.
Right. We're about to do that now,
which I'm super excited about.
All right. So, well, first I'm going to try the charcoal, but I don't have high hopes for it.
Yeah, I think you got to go with the Posca.
I'm just going to go straight for the Posca.
Yeah, I think
this is my son's Posca marker. It's a little too big.
I have like 30 million Posca markers back there, just for future reference. In fact, let me get you a fine-tipped one.
Okay. I'll wait. I'll add another layer. Thank you, sir. That's going to work out. Matt set a timer. I can hear it going off.
I set a timer. I couldn't come up with
just
the
wing
actual time in my brain.
No, all that arithmetic.
Down to seconds.
All right.
Yeah, so the timer is done, but we know how things work on here.
Yeah. All right, now let's try this little guy.
That background looks fantastic. It really looks great.
Good. I'm glad.
And
it
makes that the hard edges of the tape dispenser so much stronger. And this is going to make it really strong. Oh yeah.
There we go.
It's plastic. It's becoming plastic now. Right before our eyes. Is there a secret to getting the Posca markers to not dry out or clog up? Catherine asked that. I don't know if there's a secret to that. I have not, I'm relatively new to the Posca markers. I've used them a few times, so I haven't had really any issues with them drying out or clogging up.
Yeah, me neither yet.
But I think they're probably very similar in the way that they dispense the paint as paint pens, which have been around for a long time, which means that you need to keep the cap on it, keep it from drying out. And as far as keeping it clogged up, I think it's the same thing. You just got to keep it covered. And when you start to notice that the pen is not working as it should, then take a break and put the lid back on there and give it a chance to kind of
catch up a little bit.
Liquid again. Yeah. Not that it gets liquid again. Try to give it a break before it gets too dry.
I'm looking at my markers again, and I'm just going to, now that I've put the white in, tone down some of these other areas around the edge. That'll help the white to stand out a little bit more. All right.
And as I walked past your drawing, I saw how remarkably small it is.
It's pretty tiny.
Yeah, on the feed,
there's my thumb.
Can't tell how small that is.
Yeah, it is tiny.
It's a pretty small drawing.
So, all right, I guess this one is sketched.
Complete.
Yep, we'll call this one done.
Very
so
good.
Lots of this, the trick here is, I'd like to get a little darker, but the show's over. And we'll talk about that in 5 more episodes when we do our critique show. But the key still here is pretty distinct shapes of values that meet along hard or relatively hard edges. Trying to correct the perspective a little bit the last minute. All right. Cool.
Very good. Yeah. Very well done.
Clear tape and a clear dispenser.
Taping complete. All right.
Well, thank you guys for watching. And, I know that not everybody out there may have had this particular Grayscale set, but you might be interested in experimenting with them or another brand. This is not a commercial, but I'm enjoying getting to know the alcohol-based markers here in this last year or so.
Yeah, it looks awesome. You did a great job.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Hope you guys picked up some things. We'll switch back out here. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I definitely enjoyed watching the drawing develop and Ashley layering all those marker applications. I think he did a fantastic job. And thanks to everyone in the chat box for sticking around and staying with us here on this Valentine's Day evening here. Next week, I'll be doing the drawing, and I don't know what subject matter I'm going to be doing, but I do know that I'll be using pastels. And more than likely, I'll be working on pastel matte paper that a very special friend sent me. And if you know who you are, then you know that I'm talking to you. And that will be next week. I should have the video ready to go by next Wednesday, obviously sometime during the day, and the photo reference up by Wednesday, probably Tuesday. So, Ashley, do you have anything else for...
Yeah, I have something to add.
Right.
So just remember to see the beauty in everyday objects. The tape dispenser is a great example of that. Remember, everything starts as a drawing. So a designer drew this dispenser before it was ever created.
That's very true.
And they thought about the shape. They thought about where the straight edges are, where the curved edges are. I'm sure they did, in addition to it being functional. So try to see the beauty in those everyday objects that started as drawings by some designer or other artist out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think that's going to wrap up episode 5 All right.
That's right. Episode 5. We've got 5 more drawings in our
11.
critique
So
show.
We got 5 more drawings, 5 more regular episodes, and then the last episode of the season will be where we critique and review the drawings that we've done this season. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but this season we're choosing our own media and our own subject matter, if you haven't figured that out. Next season, we'll probably go to something a little bit more zany like we normally do. But this season...
we needed a little break from zany.
Yeah,
have a little bit, get a little control and freedom back for just a couple of months.
There's enough zaniness here without us trying.
Without spinning wheels and maybe we can draw straws. I don't know. We'll come up with something. Roll dice.
All right, guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. And if you're joining us over at the Virtual Instructor right after this, we'll see you in just a minute.
Yes.
And if you're not a member, join, and we'll see you. All right. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And with that, we're out for this evening. Good night, everybody.